So my guest today is Joe Bourne, co-founder of the startup behind the Hale Dreamer alarm clock. Thanks for coming on the show
Thanks
today,
for
Joe.
having me.
So this is a hardware product. You worked in hardware. How has crowdfunding changed hardware, do you think?
Oh, night and day. I mean, you are talking about, we suddenly have the ability to release a product and get market feedback before we've actually brought it into full production. It's a much more important factor than many of the others that get more notoriety, 3D printing and some of the open source stuff, because you think about the ability to get feedback up front without making these big investments. That's really changed. It's really turned hardware development upside down. Very big impact.
And you used it to your advantage for building this product. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so our goal was a little bit unconventional in this product. So we really wanted to get upfront feedback and really seed, particularly developer, early adopter community with our product. So, for example, the hardware's, got a relatively open interface, and that allowed us to recruit a few other apps that would work with our hardware as a result of Android Central and some of the publicity that we got out of the gate, and that came from that very focused approach that, in this case, crowdfunding facilitated.
Oh, so for you it was just as much crowd marketing and building community as getting the funding for the product.
Yeah, that's right. And so, Kickstarter is a big community of very involved users that it's very hard to get out of traditional kind of mass distribution and sales channels. So, whereas Amazon is very mainstream, or Fry's or the like, Kickstarter really does get you that early adopter, that very involved consumer. And that's, that's very important to try and recruit them up front, particularly with many of the hardware devices.
I see. And crowdfunding runs in the family, I hear. Your daughter ran a campaign.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so my daughter's going to seventh grade now, and she invented a no-spill cup. My dad has Parkinson's. He was, his hands tremors, and he was shaking and spilling. And so she invented a three-legged cup that holds the base off the ground, and did a couple crowdfunding campaigns, the most recent over the summer.
Oh, great. That must have been a great learning experience for both you and your daughter. What did you learn? What was unexpected?
Yeah, well, one of the big unexpected things was, and I think this is a lesson for all of us, that if you'd asked me what's important for her as an inventor coming out of the gate, I'd have said, well, aesthetic sense and the ability to, iterate and stuff. But it turns out that being a spokesman is really, in many ways, much more important than those details, because it was her ability to articulate and tell the story that really, captivated people and really recruited, interest and developed stuff. So I think that's, a good part of what crowdfunding does in forcing us to articulate the product.
Oh, right. You have that 1 or 2 minute video, right? And you have to pack it all in there.
Yeah, and I think that's a great exercise, because we start out and, we and our co-founders are so used to the product, and they've heard the articulation a million times, and they get used to the fact that it has 10 million features. All of a sudden now you're forced, how do I articulate this at a very high level to someone who doesn't know the product in a minute or 2 minutes? And going through that exercise is really an important discipline. What's important, what's not important, what can I leave off? And I think going through that exercise early really is a help to understanding your product and how you're going to sell it and how you're going to articulate it.
Yeah, a lot of people with engineering mindsets like me, we start thinking about a product and start building it, and feedback comes way late, way after.
Well, that's the conventional way, right? And that's why crowdfunding is so important, because all of a sudden we find ourselves selling a product before we've completed the whole engineering process. Well, that's great, because now there's plenty of time to make changes and get feedback and learn from it before you've made, all the investments, and before you've locked yourself into, a technology, the details, the implementation, so on and so forth. So, I think, that kind of exercise probably is as good for software as hardware, but particularly so in hardware, where you do have to make investments, and a lot of those investments do lock you into certain things.
Oh, because it's harder to change hardware, you mean, than software?
Yeah, I mean, hardware's become more like software, more iterative, more software driven, but you still have a physical manifestation that's in the field and can't be changed, at least, the knobs and buttons and housing and that kind of stuff. So, you do get locked into tooling, and you have to make decisions that do lock you in.
Right, right. Great. So how is your daughter's campaign and product doing?
Good. We sold 10,000 cups over the summer, so $62,000 worth, and now we're feverishly working to bring those into production and tool it up and ship those to people.
Wow.
It's called the Kangaroo Cup, if any of your viewers are interested.
Kangaroo Cup,
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Joe, and sharing your experience and that of your daughters with us.
Yes.
Best of luck with your product and your daughters.
Yes, I'll pass that along. Thank you.
We hope you found something you can use in your startup. Your input matters. Please leave your comments below. We read everything you write. To learn how Google can help your startup, go to developers.google.com/startups. If you would like to be a guest on the show, go to bit.ly/apply root access. That's it for now. See you next time.